Hey guys, it's John here, out with my best friend Tony. We're taking up the E-flite Viper 70mm on behalf of Hangar 18 Hobbies in beautiful Cary, North Carolina. This is the first time I've flown this particular Viper jet in over a year. This is the first jet I started on, and I'm looking forward to getting it set up and flying all over again. This one is not stock. You guys know how we do on this channel. If I wanted to fly stock or you wanted to see stock, you could see any other channel on YouTube, really. This one's got the full span flap and crow setup. We're going to see if we can pull off an alpha pass on the Maiden flight. It's going to be absurd, but we're going to give it a shot. Winds are coming straight down this taxiway right now. We should have a really good adventure, hopefully. So let's get her set down, do the quick pre-flight check, as we discovered last time with the turbo timber, what happens to these things if you don't pre-flight check them. So we're going to do two checks. We're going to check for control directions first. And I could have sworn that the transmitter was on. Why is it not on? They took the wind out of my sails on that one, didn't it? It's so bright out here, I can't even see the screen. Okay, go ahead and cut real quick. Left, right, up, down, right, left. Flaps are working. Deflected ailerons are working. Crow is working. I'll have to trim some of this out. Before we go fly though, let's make sure that the AS3X directions are correct, because if they're not correct, bad things are going to happen. So we go to bank to the right. The right aileron pops down to push it up. Converse, same thing, up, down, we're good. This plane has a really nasty tendency to stall on takeoff if you try to force it up before it's ready. So we're going to keep an eye on that. It's one of the distinct things I remember about it. Had a couple of my friends fly it and they've gone up and they pulled it too hard and stalled it 5 times a row into the ground. So not something you want to do. Oh yeah, and one other thing too, we have the 5280 RC afterburner unit in here. Thanks to Larry. We're gonna give it a good shake. It's not the true BlueFire unit, it's the regular TrueFire. There is a BlueFire coming for it. We'll put that in there and test it later on. Here we go. It's not as powerful as the Viper 90, that's for sure. But that afterburner though.
20 seconds.
Okay, let's get her trimmed out. Got a little bit of a roll to the right. Some of that could be turbulence from the little bit of the rotor that we got out here. The wind died, but that doesn't mean it's not above the trees. Okay, hands off. A little bit of... Okay, we're good now. Of course, the clouds all went away, right? All right, so this plane's basically dialed in at this point. I want to take it up and try an alpha pass, see if we can actually get it to do it with the setup that the Viper 90's got. There's the wing stall as I pull too hard. There it is again. Okay, we're gonna zoom all the way around. This plane does not have a forgiving stall. If you have the rate set up the way I do, you will get bitten by them. We're gonna start like this, pull all the way back. I think it's working. I'm holding the stick all the way back right now. Oh, nope. Okay, so it's gonna take some finessing. I need to figure out what flap setting I need to use. Maybe give it even more aileron up. Get her down so you guys can see some stuff here. Take a step back for me, Tony. We're gonna test out the crow setting real quick before we come into land. Just to do a quick touch and go. Ooh, that was weird. Lost all control. Okay, so we're not gonna land with crow. Maiden for sure. We're gonna do a quick touch and go. You wanna zoom in on that C-130 up there? That's pretty cool. It's got refueling pods on it too or something. What do you think those are?
Probably a KC-130F.
Cool. All right, coming out on approach here. Flaps looking good. Don't even need any trim or anything for it. Keeping the nose down on the approach. So that was interesting. We had a little bit of a wind gust that picked the plane up, kept it from settling down. If I could get crow to behave the way I want it to, it probably wouldn't even been an issue. It would have just sunk through the wind. Try it again. Plenty of power left to work with. It's definitely ballooning a bit. I need to mix in a little bit of down elevator, I think. So, any landing that doesn't damage the plane is a landing I'm going to take. But figuring out what flare air settings you need to use without crow is a fun mind game to play, because you have to know the exact airspeed at which to pull the stick back to get a proper flare. Otherwise you land on all three. Now this is a plane with chicken wire wings, so it's not much of a problem. But let's see if I can get that approach set up just right. As far as this plane goes, it flies really smooth and stable. Once I get that flat mix or elevator aileron mix in there for the crow to get it to be more responsive. That wasn't bad. So you can get it right without crow every single time, but when you have crow, it allows the nose to stay nose up while you continue to sink. So you don't have to have as critical of a time on your flare, which is how I prefer it, because I don't have all the benefit of the instruments to work with in the cockpit to know what the exact airspeed is I need to flare at. I know that you can get the feel for it, but I'm not in the plane, right? I'm flying by the seat of my fingers here. That's a stall right there. 100% a stall, even pulling the elevator a little bit. You saw how violently that swung over? The solution to that is to push the nose down and use some rudder if you can. I just throttled out of it. I got lucky. But this plane does not have a forgiving stall. This has bitten more than one beginner.
That gave me some flashbacks.
Yeah, you remember how that was when we fly off grass and try to rotate too fast? And every single time it would drop that wing on rotation?
Every time.
Every single time. It was like clockwork. I could count the number of times it didn't do that on one hand. That's why I don't like flying this jet off grass. Gentle elevator pulls the whole way. This is why I also fly with a lot of expo, because to get it to that point of getting it to stall that easily, you have to really pull hard. If you don't have expo in this jet, it's very easy to make it stall like that. 22.39. We're getting close to the point where we need to land. Good thing we're getting this all shook out though. Next flight I do this is going to have the crow mixed into the aileron so that there's full aileron authority when I go to roll, rather than having one of the ailerons droop slightly. That was why I didn't respond at all. All right, not too bad. I'll take what I can get. There we go. Should have put the crow out at the end to get it to slow down even faster. All right, let's go ahead and cut here. All right, guys, here we go. We're going to try out the alpha mixing some more, maybe do some fun stuff with this jet. But oh, we have to turn on the GPS too. Okay, cool. Though. It's a fun little learner jet. Let's do a quick knife edge pass. Holding rudder, basically. I don't even need any input. Like, I'm literally hands off except for rudder on that one. All right, let's turn her over. Get those wings leveled out. It's behaving like the 90 right now. I think I got it. Right rudder. Rudder. I'm friggin' alphaing a Viper 70, dude. Look at this thing go. Rudder, 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 rudder. Okay, now we've proven it can be done. Oh, there's the stall. This plane does not tolerate being stalled. No matter what airspeed you're going, that has a very narrow critical angle of attack. It won't tolerate anything too crazy. So we'll do the same thing I do in my tutorials. Pull all the way back with the mix out, throttle up. This one I have to use rudder to counter the wing rock. Left rudder, right rudder, left rudder. There we go. Get under the sun. Check the CG real quick. Definitely nose heavy. Yeah, we'll have to do more alpha testing with this thing later. It's just too windy right now, I think. There's no real way to figure out what needs to be done to it until the wind subsides. I think I got some stabilizers going a little crazy, and I need to turn that down a bit. How's the vid coming out? Are you able to zoom in?
Yeah, it's good.
So high up. We'll work that around here in a second. Get a little closer. Yeah, I'm actually legitimately impressed. You can high alpha a Viper. All the Vipers, every one that Horizon's produced can be alpha. she'll do the inverted flat spin that the 90 does. It does. It's a fun little jet to fly, man. I love it. We're gonna invert it. Use a lot of stick pressure to keep it up. Getting bit by my leg by something out here. Leave me alone, ants. I didn't do nothing to you. See if I can make it do regular flat spin. Very unlikely. I don't even know what that is. It looked cool though. So yeah, gentle stick movements are the key to flying this plane, right? Like if you give it too aggressive of an input, like if I just pull full throttle or go full throttle and pull back, and that's it. See how it rolls? That's a series of accelerated stalls the plane's experiencing. One of the wings experiences asymmetric stalling, and it just drops and it starts rolling through the turn. It's not even, I'm not even trying to turn it, I'm just trying to pull it. Now if we do it with the flat mix turned on for the alpha, watch this. See how it doesn't roll anymore? I'm pulling full back right now. It almost went into alpha. If it wouldn't be so turbulent out here, I'd probably be able to get closer to the ground. That's okay, we'll do a Viper 90 comparison, which one does alpha better. Neither one of them should be doing this, need I remind any of you watching. Alright, we're getting low on power. We're gonna try the crow out here in a sec. It starts feeling wonky, I'm just gonna throttle out of it. Feeling good so far? Nope. It was just like nosing down so hard. Like I lost complete elevator authority and I don't know why that keeps happening. I need to look into what's causing that. I may not have enough rates on my gear-based rates for that. Landing with flaps only is fun.
22.63 volts.
Oof. So it's a handful to fly, man. It's fun. Walk of shame. All right, we'll cut here. It's a pretty decent landing. I definitely redeemed it, I'd say.
Flaps up.
Use the crow to turn it around too. Get it slowed down a bit.
Wing normal.
You turn all the way around like I told you to. No, do it. Do it. Turn all the way around. Stop messing with me, boy. Turn around. There we go. All right, guys, we're gonna go right back up with the Viper 70. It's the last battery of the day. I've flown the F-18, I've flown the A-10 a little bit. I'm not gonna post any more A-10 content for a while. I'm sure you guys are tired of seeing it. The Viper 70, I have managed to make high alpha. We're gonna do that a little bit more on camera right now. I wanna make a quick shout out to 5280RC for sending me Larry's awesome TrueFire afterburners to put into this. It looks amazing. I never thought I'd like a Viper with an afterburner, but now I can't imagine it not having one. And special shout out to Hangar 18 Hobbies. Again, I get to be the shop's demo pilot. It's a dream come true to be able to fly models like this and have fun and talk to people about them and show them how it's all done. After this flight, I'm going to show you guys the setup video. We're going to wrap all that up into the same content here, and we'll go over and talk how it's all set up and how it's all done. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and take off with deflected ailerons to help it just launch up into the air and get her going. Let's do this. It actually takes off really well like that. I might leave that as the flap setting that we use. I'm gonna get over to your right, and then we're gonna set her up for an alpha pass now that the winds have finally started dying down, thankfully. It's been crazy turbulent here. See if I can get this jet to finally behave in alpha. It likes to wing rock a whole ton, and I have to use rudder to fix it. I have to do that with the other one too, but it's not as noticeable. So we're gonna pull the stick all the way back, just like the 90. Start throttling in. Ruddering. A little bit of rudder goes a long way. Flying this jet high alpha right now, guys. I can't believe I'm doing it with a Viper 70. Whew. I'm glad you trust me, Tony. I'd never hit you. But that came close, didn't it? Were you able to catch all that?
Yep.
Oof. Heart skip a beat a little bit?
No.
It's just foam, right? We're gonna just a little further out this time. that the call out's a little more audible. She was talking over me during my speech. Now she needs to be heard. It's a fun game of rudder and stick on this one. Okay, pull the stick back.
Quick hold. Alpha.
Get her past that tree line. There we go. We're in Alpha right now. It's coming back to us, you know, it just wants to keep pointing right at us. It's not as easy to do on the 90. Like the 90 is so much easier. I don't have to use the rudder anywhere near as much as I do in the 70. This is a challenge. I actually like it, but I don't know what I need to do to tame it down. I may have to give the ailerons even more travel by cutting them and then rehinging them. Maybe I just need to use less back pressure in the elevator. Nope, that ain't it. Nope, that ain't it either.
23.33 volts. Quick normal.
Okay. When all else fails, just gently recover by letting the nose drop and throttle up, get enough airspeed to let the wing fly again, and then you're good to go.
22.9 volts.
If I can get it to be as stable as the 90, I'll be able to get it to go in a straight line down this taxiway and blow the dust around. That's my goal.
Alpha.
Whether I'm going to hit that goal is another story. It's very unlikely given the way it's flying right now. See what happens when I just hold the elevator back? Okay, it goes into kind of a powered elevator.
Quick normal.
And just do a nice high-speed pass. Get out of the alpha stuff. Oh, let's do the speed test finally. We never did that. So let's go ahead and
21.68 volts.
we'll just go ahead and do a dive. Who cares about level speed passes? We want to see how fast it can actually go. We're going to go ahead and pull over. Full throttle.
Maximum speed maximum speed 119.3 miles per hour.
So the tail waggled a bit. I need to adjust the
317.6 feet
stabilization.
Stabilizer normal. 22.88 alpha.
Okay, that's a lot of call outs. Sorry, guys. Getting back into that alpha. You can see it just... Yeah, it's very hard to do this. I need to play with the mixes. But you guys can see that it can be done, so let it never be said that the Viper airframe is un-alpha-able, because it is absolutely 100% alpha-able. In fact, I think the lightness of this is what's causing the problem. If it was dead calm air,
22.43 volts.
it would probably be fine. This plane weighs very little. Like, it weighs like maybe 30% as much as the Viper 90 does, maybe 50 if you're lucky. Okay.
Gear down.
Flaps and gear coming out.
22.7 volts.
It's on a Z60C 4000 back, if I didn't mention that already. It's fun to fly this plane without crow. Fun being it doesn't have a whole lot of flare authority and it's hard to keep the nose up. We're gonna salvage that. I refuse to end on that. As a demo pilot for Hangar 18 Hobbies, that is inexcusably bad. Again, but then you see what happens to this plane though. You have a very narrow, limited window with which to flare. You gotta get that flare time just right, and if the wind conditions are different or if something else isn't right, it's tough to get down.
Take a pro aileron, wing full, pro flaps full.
So,
Deflected aileron, flaps
take off
50.
with deflected aileron. Yeah, that really helps it just get right up, doesn't it? Okay, get her back.
Gear down.
Gear out. Little sprung wire gear can take a ton of abuse. They stop, the wheels actually stop being little boulders once they start rolling for a bit. Once they've rolled for a while on pavement, they actually soften up. Surprising.
22.36 volts.
Low bounce wheels are still my preferred type of wheel though. Okay, so we can get her to flare this time correctly. A little bit of extra throttle to get us over this rough patch of pavement. I'll take it.
Flaps up.
I even gave this thing 150% rates and I just don't have enough flare authority. And even if I did have enough flare authority, you would have to time it like precision, like perfect timing every single time. I'm gonna have to go get it. Almost every single time, yeah.
22.
You have to flare it perfectly every single time for you to keep the nose up without it dropping a wing or without it starting to float. It's very hard to do. And the center of gravity on a 4,000 pack doesn't really allow for it. Anyway, it's been John. Thanks for shooting, Tony. It's been a real pleasure having you out here. See you guys again next time. What up, YouTube? John without the H here. By this point, you've already seen the Viper 70 Maiden flight. That was fun. The plane got a little dinged up. I actually tore up the exhaust trying out crow. Again, part of the motto of this channel is I bust my stuff so you guys don't have to. What I did first and foremost, which I don't recommend that you guys do because I haven't even tested this yet, but I took my bud Tony's old F-18 parts and installed an F-18 exhaust nozzle on the back of the Viper 70. And I've been painting it burnt iron, so I haven't quite finished it yet. I think it looks awesome, and I've already tested it. It actually hovers on a half-dead battery. It's a nice thrust tube. And it's like going straight down the line too, so I don't think it's going to cause any issues with thrust. But real quick, we're going to go ahead and pause right here and put this on my head. And we got my haircut today. I got pomade in my hair, or pomade, whatever it's called, and there's no way this thing's going to fit on my head. So we'll just do the setup while I hold it in my hand, and we'll go over the basic physical aspects of everything. This should be easy enough to talk about and set up. First and foremost, I am using the 5280 RC TrueFire LED afterburner from 5280rc.com. That was a really easy install. You just pop open the motor, take the motor out, attach this to the back of it with a couple of dabs of foam tack on the plastic part that attaches to the motor, and then you just strap it down with a zip tie and you're good to go. I'm using an AR8360T receiver. You can kind of see it in there. It's a little on the dark side. I apologize in advance if you can't see it too well, but it is in there. I have the GPS in there too to test out the speed. I have the voltage telemetry hooked up here to the voltage port. So the little leads connect in here. I have them electrically taped so they won't go anywhere. That's a really simple setup too. If you have a receiver and you want to get voltage telemetry and you don't have an avian, just connect those wire leads right into there. Just cut put a notch in here with an X-Acto blade, push the leads into it, and wrap them down tight with electrical tape. It takes about 5 minutes. It's the easiest way to do it. Let's go ahead and connect the power and see one more time if I can get this thing on my head without messing up my hair too much. Okay, this will work actually. Cool. All right, so for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to connect it with a Z4060C pack. Stick this in there. We're not going to tighten it down too much because I don't really plan to do too much with this plane except for having it sit on the bench. This will be a very quick setup vid. There's not a whole lot that you have to do to make it fly the way I did. You will have to separate the leads for the elevator if you want Tailerons that activate with crow and full span flaps to help you have some roll control. Otherwise, you can just fly it completely bone stock if you don't want that. I thought it's cool to have for as long as I'll own this plane. Anyway, who knows how long I'm going to have it, because I'm going to fly it hard. And again, this is a plane that I've been flying on behalf of Hangar 18 Hobbies in beautiful Cary, North Carolina. So make sure you check them out at hangar18hobbies.com and check them out on social media as well. The links have been in the description. I'll toss them up again. So ignore the exhaust nozzle mod because you're probably not going to want to do that.
Gear down.
Get the gear out. So this thing has chicken wire gear, right? And you know, not the best, but that's okay. It's basically a trainer's plane. I like to say that it's a trainer plane in everything but handling characteristics. It's a trainer plane in terms of price, and it's a trainer plane in terms of overall handling until you get to stalls. And you'll see this thing stalls like not like a beginner's plane. But before we get to that point, let's talk about antenna placement too real quick. I have an antenna running along the side over here, buried, and the lead kicks out right there. And I have the second antenna poked through behind the battery latch and then taped to the side above the fuselage. That has worked exceptionally well. I barely get any frame losses doing this. I don't need a remote receiver for this jet, thankfully. Okay, let's go over rates. Everything is flown on 150% rates, but before I go into rates, I need to go ahead and pop out of my iX20 menu here, and then go ahead and turn on the recorder so you guys can see what it is that I'm doing. I don't see the value of these setup vids if you guys can't actually follow along, and if, you know, listening to me talk, I talk a mile a minute sometimes, it would probably help if you guys could actually see what's happening. So that's what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and get this little camera recorder started. Here we go, starting now. 3, 2, 1. All right, we'll point the plane away from us so we see the backside of it, and you can see how it's set up. All right, first and foremost, let's get to servo travel, servo setup, and put the gear up with the gear lock so they can't move up, but I'm in my high rates. Again, I use gear-based rates. We'll get to that in a second. We got 150% movement on all axes for elevator and for aileron. The wing type on this model is dual aileron, one flap with dual elevators and one rudder. That's so I can have Taileron configuration, and when I have Crow enabled, I can activate the Taileron functionality and get the model to have extra roll control. I'm going to turn the British lady down a little bit so we can talk. Okay, so we've gone over all the rates, 150 up and down. For as far as servo holes are concerned, so you guys know where to position them and where they go. They are on the outermost hole in the servo arms on pretty much every surface except for the flaps, and on the innermost hole on the horns to produce the most responsive control surface settings. I'm just trying to think of a way to sell this idea to you guys. The downside to this is it does make the model very easy to stall. This model is very prone to accelerated stalls. That is a stall that happens while you are under airspeed and you're pulling until the wing's critical angle of attack is met, and then one of the wings drops. You'll see this happen a lot with this model in my flying, because I will pull harder than the wing's supposed to, one of the wings will drop, and it will look like it's rolling, and it looks like I intend to, but I really don't. That's an accelerated stall in the case of this model. So let's move on to rates as they apply to actual flying. I use what's called gear-based rates with my gear up. Even though you can see them out, my gear are locked. If I open the throttle cut, they'll go up because my gear switches up. But if I throw throttle cut on, the gear come back out. This prevents me from pulling them up on the ground. So I have, with my gear up, I have 100% rates. This is 100% of 150, so that means 150% rates with 80% expo, so I get a nice dead zone in the center. It keeps me from over-controlling the plane, but I get a very responsive outer curve. Same thing for the elevator, 80%, and rudder is 85% at all times, keep me from over-controlling on the ground. With the gear out, rudder is still 85% expo and 100% rates. Elevator was also 100% rates with gear up. Aileron is 47% rates, and so is pitch. And ailerons and elevator are 47%. 47% of 150 is 70%. That's my low rates. Technically 47, but actually 70% in practice. When I go to pull this up, that's 70% in the model monitor screen. I use 50% expo. I find that I'm actually bottoming out with flare authority on the elevator, so what I'm going to do is add a little bit more elevator authority for landing. So now I'm going to use 100%, 67% of 150 is 100%. We're going to keep 50% expo, maybe kick it up to 60 actually to keep it tamped down so it's not easy to pull and stall the plane. This is how I fly. Your mileage may vary, or your airspeed and nautical miles may vary. It all depends on how you want to set your plane up. Go through the mixes real quick. This one is using the standard, what do you want to call this? Got like what's called a high G maneuvering mix. So as I pull the elevator back, the ailerons both pop up to help reduce the stress on the wings and keep them from dropping. That little beep is just telling me that's where I want the most effect. So the ailerons stop moving around the time it starts beeping. This is a simple curved mix, elevator to flap with expo turned on, so it's a nice smooth curve. Point number 1 is set to 91%. Point number 2 is marked at -50 on here, where I'm holding the stick right now, and -74, and then 0 and 0. It does stuff if I push down because of the curve, but I don't intend to use it upside down much, although I should test inverted alpha and some other stuff in this model. Alpha. The same thing applies to the alpha mix for position 0 as well. Okay, we'll look at mix 2 in a little bit for the throttle-based gains. Elevator to left aileron, this is the flap move. I think it's the flap movement.
Alpha. High G.
No, it's not. Actually, that was a different mix. Oh, elevator to flap, that was actually, I'm sorry, that was the, if I lift this model up real quick, you'll see what I'm talking about. That was the flaps dumping out. I got that mistaken. So that's the That's the flap mix to put the flaps out as I pull elevator back. Okay, that's to get it into high alpha. So you saw it on screen, you know how it's set up. We'll go back to the other one, elevator to left aileron, switch B, and position 1 and 2, that's what causes the ailerons to reflex upward. Sorry if I got a little mistake in there. At the furthest point, point number 1, it's 125%. At the earliest point to activate the aileron upward reflex early, that is negative 30% with 86% set. And this is on an expo curve as well. And then negative 100 on point 4 so that the ailerons just point up while the plane's inverted if I push down to help kind of reduce the wing loading on that as well. All right, ignore throttle to AX1, that's for roll, and the other one was for pitch. We'll get to that in a few. Elevator to left, or sorry, elevator to right elevator. That should be the, what is that? Switch F. What does that do? It's been a while since I messed with this. Elevator to right, elevator. I gotta remember what this does off the top of my head. I can't name these mixes. It'd be great if I could. Come on, Horizon, let's get with this already so I don't have to make an arse of myself on camera. I've set this to 100% and 100%, and it's set to only activate on switch F. So what is it actually doing? Doesn't seem like it's doing anything. All right, we'll ignore those for the moment. I'm not entirely sure why that's set the way it is. If I can remember what it was, I'd tell you off the top of my head, but it doesn't appear to do anything. So let's double check and see if it changes anything. Okay, we're just going to reset that because it doesn't do anything. Ignore this mix. Next up is flap to left aileron, switch F. This is going to cause the upward crow reflex. In position 0, it does nothing. Position 1, actually it's a combo switch. So position 1, it actually activates deflected ailerons with an offset of 100% and a rate of 78%. You get a perfect match of the ailerons to the flaps. So that works really well. I find that works amazing for takeoff. The jet lifts right up without even having to command any elevator input. It just lifts right up. Of course, there is some elevator input mixed in because when you push the flap, the ailerons down as flaps, it does command a nose down response a lot of the time. So there's a little bit of up elevator mixed in, which is probably causing it to lift up on its own. That's only set to work on switch F. Position 1 on switch F, position 2, a rate of negative 35% to an offset of 100 produces crow. I found that a lot of crow is actually not very useful on this airfoil for whatever reason. The Viper 90 I can use a lot and I get away with it. On this one, just a little bit, and it works better. This is still experimental though, so your mileage and nautical miles may vary. Test at your own risk on this one. I'm still working this out. But the full span flaps absolutely work perfectly on takeoff at the very least. So aileron to left elevator. This is on a combo switch. I have it set up to either be with flaps deployed all the way. The ailerons work in concert with the tailerons to produce additional roll. And if I throw switch D2, I can get tailerons as well. So if I wanted extra agility for even more rifle style rolls in the air, I can do that. Okay, next up is flap to right elevator. This is an elevator compensation mix. So when I put it into switch position 1 on switch F, a rate of 15% and an offset of 100 causes the elevators to move up in response to the downward moving ailerons. Conversely, the upward moving ailerons cause the elevators to move down to compensate, to prevent it from pitching up severely. So that's what that does. That's a crow compensation / full span flap compensation mix. Aileron to left elevator. Let's see what that does. Let's see. That's an interesting mix. Aileron to left elevator. What did I set that up for?
Tailerons. Aileron.
Oh, right. I already talked about this. I'm sorry. I got mixed up. That was the Taileron mix. Let's see here. H to AX2. That's the gear lock switch. Switch H controls auxiliary 2, which is the gear on this model, with a rate of negative 125% and an offset of 100%. This causes the gear to always be locked. No matter what I do, I can't pull them up. See how the gear doesn't move even as I move the gear switch up and down? But if I let go of that, or if I disable throttle cut, the gear automatically go up and the gear goes to 100% on here. And if I throw the switch again, it goes from negative 100 to negative 150. This is just to prevent you from pulling the gear up on the ground. And it also helps when you're testing stuff too. So like when you're messing with mixes and whatnot and you have it tied to the gear switch, you don't constantly pull the gear up and down, which can be kind of obnoxious to listen to. These are pretty quiet gear, but like for some of the bigger jets like the Viper 90, hearing the gear go up and down is non-stop is very annoying. So aileron to right aileron, switch F. This is 125 and 125. This is, if I recall correctly, yeah, this is a mix that gives extra, it reduces the exponential on the aileron surfaces, so you get more roll authority. See how it's slower right now, but it's moving faster now? That's what it does. It's a mix of 125% to 125%, set to switch 1, or sorry, position 2 on switch F, so it's really only for crow. I could probably set it up for full span flaps too, so I'm actually going to do that on camera because I have basically no roll authority, and I also need to set it up for Tailerons in this config too, so we'll do 125, 125, and see how now I have additional movement on that, which is great, which is what I want when I'm in that configuration. Let's go to a little bit of on-the-fly adjustment here because there's some stuff here that I need to still work out on this model. Aileron to left elevator, combo switch needs to be activated for, let's see here. We'll just set it to switch F on this one instead of switch D. So we'll set it to switch F1 and 2. So now we always have additional roll control no matter what position we're in. So as I go roll left, that elevator pops up, that one goes down. Go to roll right, that one pops up, that one pops down. There we go. That's really all there is to it in terms of mixing. Let me show you what the throttle-based gains look like. Throttle up real quick. Okay, keep the gear out for this one. We'll go into forward programming first so you guys can see how this is done. I covered this on the, what is it, the F-18 setup, but the principles still apply here. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this GoPro so you guys can be rotated down and see what I'm doing. Gyro settings, we'll go to AS3X settings on gains. Roll is 35%, pitch is 80, yaw is 65%. 45% in my second mode, 100% pitch, and 55% yaw. And safe is the same as the extra stabilization second setting. This is all relative gain. Okay, the receiver timed out, I'm standing too close to it. This is all relative gains. What that means is that you can actually adjust these with the sliders in the back. Roll is adjusted by this one, pitch is adjusted by this one, that and yaw too. If I go to capture gyro gains, you'll see right now we've got a roll gain of 9 as I throttle. Okay, it's still too close to the receiver. If you get too close, it'll connect, break the connection. All right, back to what I was doing. Capturing the gyro gains, we have a roll of 9. As I throttle up, it goes to 15. And as I throttle all the way up, it goes down to 5. The rest of them go up and down too. That's with gear out. With gear up, it's also, it's more linear. So let's see what like a normal throttle-based approach would be like when I'm coming into land. You'll see how much the ailerons move or don't move. So they move just a little bit. There's not a whole lot of roll response. They're really effective. The last thing I want is for this plane to start wobbling while it comes in. It's really annoying to look at, and it makes it kind of unstable, especially when you're on approach. I could stand to jank that up a little bit more, so I think that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to go to the rate gains. We're going to change the gains to 60 on roll from 35, and on 45% up to 80%. And we're going to do the same thing for safe too, even though safe is kind of like its own thing, and I barely use it except to get orientation back. So we'll put it back into landing config with the throttle, and now we'll see where the stabilizer is. Yeah, it's got a little bit more effectiveness now. This will prevent it from like being over controlled at high speeds, generally speaking, and as you come into lower speeds, it has more of an effect. And when I have the throttle all the way up, it has almost no effect at all. It works really well in practice most of the time. Sometimes, you know, you can't always guarantee that the airspeed is going to be the same, because if the wind gust kicks up and it's like a 30-mile-an-hour gust, then the plane is suddenly traveling, going from 60 miles an hour to 90 miles an hour, so it's going to start oscillating. But that's what the adjustment sliders are for, right? So if we go to like half throttle, this is what it looks like with the gear up. just very little effect. Same thing for it's got more effect on the pitch. Actually, if I recall correctly, it did have a lot of wobbling on the pitch, so I need to turn that down a bit. So we'll change pitch stabilization to 60 and change it down to 70 on the second setting and on 70 on safe too. That basically covers everything. Let me go ahead and show you the mix though. That's controlling these two. Throttle to AX5 is it should be the pitch. Let me just double check though. This thing's starting to hurt my head. Let's see here, AX5. Okay, so yeah, AX5 is the pitch gain. I had to call it P-GAN, and R-GAN is the roll gain. P-GAN is pitch and yaw though. So on mixing, you'll see I have a curved mix controlling this. Throttle to AX5, switch A is the determining factor. With the gear up, it's a nice shallow curve, going from 2% to 11% to 35%. With the gear down, there's a nice hill. Starts with 17%, moves up to 41%, goes down to 0, and then goes down to negative 72%. All right. Going down to throttle to AX1, this is the roll. With roll, we start at 57% negative. At half throttle, negative 62%, and then negative 72% at full throttle. And with the gear out, you start with negative 45, move to negative 14 at about landing thrusts, and so about 25% throttle, negative 47 at half throttle, and negative 72 at full throttle. That has the effect of basically almost turning it off, but it's still kind of there if needed. All right, guys, that basically covers just about everything on this jet. It's not a very hard jet to set up. I quite like it. It's a lot of fun. Actually, I'm having fun modifying it too. I never really went this crazy with it the last time I owned it. This time I'm just like, you know what? I already have the big 90 Viper. Let's see what the small one can do. I've already put it into high alpha. I have every intent to get it to do crazy high alpha above the taxiway like I did last time with the Viper 90. It's just going to take a little bit of finagling to figure it out and get it right. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And hopefully my hair didn't get too messed up because I literally just got a haircut and I wanted to look a little bit decent, right? And it got messed up. Go figure. But you guys are worth it. So I gotta take a shower tomorrow anyway because it's Easter. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you got any questions or concerns or anything else in the comments, just let me know and I will help you out if I can. And if you got anything else you want to tell me, let me know. See y'all next time. Cheers.